Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. The 2020 winter anime season is well underway now, and you got a lot of episode reviews and discussions out there about various shows. But there's one in particular that I was very excited for coming into the season that I haven't seen a lot of people talking about. And luckily, it's something that I've already started reading the manga for this, so I already know that it's hopefully going to be a pretty good anime in its own right, and that is Inspector. Now, this is a show from Brains Base. Just there's one episode up there on Crunchyroll right now. It is streaming on Crunchyroll. You can go check that out. But basically, at its core, without digging into the episode at first, it's all you care about if you know nothing about it. Basically, like a supernatural sort of mystery action sort of show involving yokai, spirits, ghosts, as it were, and people in the human realms, like connection to that, trying to help some of the nice spirits and getting rid of some of the evil spirits, and with some sort of like romantic comedy sort of thrown in there. It's pretty interesting. Some really likable characters and stuff like that. That's gonna be it for like non-spoilers. From here on out, I'm gonna be talking about episode 1, and hopefully talking about more of the show in the future. So if you don't want to be spoiled at all, I guess stop watching right now. Maybe go check out my Patreon or something like that. There's a couple different kind of rewards and a Discord and all that if you want to do that. And if you'd like to see me again in the future, I do a live chat every Sunday night at 9 p.m. But hopefully I'll see you all there. Alright, so let's get into episode 1. Basically, we get introduced to our two main characters. Initially, we meet Kotoko, who is this 17-year-old girl. Looks kind of younger than she is, but certainly does not speak or act like a kid. She's very, very forward and upfront about everything. And when she was a young girl, she was abducted, basically taken by these yokai spirits, and basically made, I don't want to say got tricked, but was led to believe that she could become their goddess of wisdom. And she agrees. She thinks like she's a little girl. You know, this sounds like this cool like fantasy thing, like oh, like I'm almost like a princess sort of deal. And they treat her as such. In fairness, they treat her with a whole lot of respect and everything. So she agrees to do this as a young girl. Now, the downside of this is that there's sort of a cost to this. They make her look like how their goddess is supposed to look, who was missing an eye and a leg. So when she was a young girl, she loses one of her eyes and one of her legs, and then is, you know, kind of left off on literally like a bus stop kind of thing, to be taken care of by the humans in the real world. And she, even as a kid, interestingly enough, she sort of went along with it. You kind of got to suspend your disbelief, I guess, a little bit there, maybe. But she is treated like a goddess to them now, and now different yokai from all over the place go to her, and now she's one of very few people, from what I understand, can see them. Just like, you know, various other anime and stuff like that, with spirits running around. And they can talk to her, and they basically treat her like a princess, like a goddess, like this higher class being, and go to her for her sage advice and everything, and to mediate problems. So she looks at it like it's a very cool opportunity for her to sort of be this heroic figure in the eyes of the yokai. So she doesn't tell her parents or doctors or anything. She just says that she doesn't remember what happened. She was kidnapped. She doesn't remember how she lost her eye and her leg, and they replace her eye. She has this fake eye, and she has a like a fake leg thing and a cane that she walks with. Flash forward a couple years, and she is hanging around this hospital where she meets this teenage guy named Kuro, who she bumps into basically by accident, and basically falls in love with him at first sight, literally kind of how she describes it. Interestingly enough, she saves him from stumbling, and when she gets a look at his face, she kind of describes it weirdly as he reminds her of a goat, which is odd, but she kind of describes it as someone being like how like sturdy, like reliable, yet like with some sort of like mysterious factor to them. Um, but you know, it's sort of believable that she's attracted to this guy at first sight. Um, Too bad for her. He's already at that time has a girlfriend, a pretty cute girlfriend, might I add. Her name's is it Saki, I believe. Um, and at first, it's kind of humorous because she thinks that in her head that like she's hoping that they're brother and sister or cousins or something. But then she finds out from the nursing staff that they are indeed dating. Um, and it turns out that Kuro has been visiting his cousin in this hospital for quite some time for some sort of lengthy illness. And funnily enough, all the yokai spirits that Kotoko can see are judging Kuro like this entire time because they see that their goddess of wisdom is infatuated with this human guy. They refer to him as like a creature, which is kind of funny because you have these like zombie type spirits. That's another weird thing is there's this one like zombie warrior guy spirit who looks like a cut up samurai dude. I don't know. When you like die as like a samurai, are you forever gonna be a ghost of a cut up samurai like bleeding all over the place? That seems like it sucks. I would have thought you'd maybe look like your normal self, but apparently not. Um, but so basically, she falls in love with this cool, mysterious Kuro guy at first sight, and holds this sort of to herself and jealousy of his current girlfriend for 2 years, and then we quickly go forward to 2 years where they meet again at the same hospital. Kuro is still visiting the cousin, but he's hanging out outside, drinking coffee or something, and Kotoko had heard rumors from the nursing staff that they were no longer dating, Kuro and his girlfriend. So she goes up to him, and it's like, well, this is my chance now. She wants to go talk to him, basically reintroduces herself because he doesn't really remember who she is. She, of course, remembers when they met vividly. And she is very upfront and forward. She literally asks him when she kind of, gets him to admit that he's not dating that girl anymore. She asks him, would you date me with marriage in mind? Seems like an odd thing to ask. Of course, he also thinks that she's younger than she is because she sort of looks younger. I mean, she's 17, but I believe he is a couple years older still. So he kind of laughs it off and is like, "Oh wow, I got 17-year-olds asking me out. This is where I'm at in my life." And he doesn't not outrightly reject her as so much as he makes it seem like he's not good enough for her. Seemingly with some anxieties to go on with the previous girlfriend. And with that, Kotoko sort of digs into what happened with that. And then our guy Kuro here sort of describes a story where him and, I believe, if it's not Saki, I'm sorry, him and the girlfriend were walking on this bridge in the rain or some shit, and they see a kappa in the water. Kappa's this Japanese water spirit, and he can see it. So this right away indicates that he can see these things. And then once they notice it, Saki, I believe, notices it too, and she's scared of it. We don't really get a whole lot of detail of what else happens in the scenario, but he indicates that something happens and somebody ran away. Now the wordplay is interesting here in their conversation because he words it as and then he ran away, not just saying he used he. So Kotoko notices this and is like, well, what did you mean? So she's like, I think you mean that the kappa ran away, but why would he run away from you? Then he immediately brushes it off and says oh, you're just crazy. Kappas don't really exist. I'm just joking around. When in reality, he probably isn't. He says none of this is real. These ghost spirits aren't real. Kotoko then tells him about her backstory with her eye and her leg, and how these spirits are indeed among us. He sort of brushes it off at first, and then leaves. And then we go to I think the next day or very soon after, and we get they're meeting at the hospital again, and then um, a tanuki spirit runs up to them, like this raccoon-looking thing that can talk. Goes up to Kotoko and says there's something wrong at the library, I believe. There's a barrier that's been breached, and this evil entity is there. Now, Kotoko, as the goddess that they perceive her to be, is very responsible about this, says, like, I need to go handle this, but I think I'm going to need your help to this Kuro guy. She's sort of also interested in what he can provide in terms of, like, seemingly he's already scared away some supernatural being, so he must be of some help to her. Because the way she describes herself, she's not really going to scare anything, and she sort of pressures him into it. Funnily enough, she's like, "I kind of need you there, or else if you want to read a news article tomorrow about a girl with one eye and one leg getting eaten alive by some ghost, you should help me. How could you ever live with that guilt in your conscience after I confessed my love to you, nonetheless?" So it's got some cool. I love Kotoko as a character. She's really interesting. I like her in the manga as well. Now I've only read one volume of this, so it didn't. We're basically almost on par with what I've read versus what I've seen. So I'm hoping that her character continues to be like this in future episodes. But they go to the library, and there's of course this big monster, disgusting being thing there. Kotoko tries to like reason with it and use her sort of like authority, which she says would normally work in these type of situations. But the fact that Kuro is there, interesting enough because she brought him. Interesting that Kuro is there. He starts freaking out. Something within Kuro seems to stir up these yokai spirits, so it makes it far more aggressive. So it starts to like lash out and like give chase to them. Kuro and Kotoko sort of try and run away. At the same time, Kotoko says, if he's not going to listen to me, I'll have to use force. And she grabs a fire extinguisher and goes to bash him over the head. And of course, it doesn't really do much to this big monstrosity thing. So it sort of like launches her into the air or whatever. Doesn't really do a whole lot to it. At which point, Kuro like catches her, and it's kind of like funny, like sort of like a reverse fan servicey, typical fan service type moment, because she's really attracted to him, and she makes jokes about it all the time how like he's holding her like close, and she's like, "Oh wow, I really wish you were holding me like this before." So it's cool to see like the girl on like that end of it, acting that way. I guess I hope it doesn't like hit it over the head that much in future episodes, but she does that nonetheless. And so he says that he kind of knows the solution to this. He simply sticks his arm out, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And this thing goes to bite off his arm, and it does. Rips off his arm. It looks pretty gory and cool. And he's unfazed by this. And she, of course, is horrified because this guy that she loves just lost his arm. But it turns out that for reasons, this arm meat that this thing just ate is poisonous to him, and he rots away. He like melts into himself, rots away down to bones. And Kuro says, "Well, I guess I really am poison to them." And so that gets Kotoko saying, "Well, what are you really?" And he said, "Well, when I was 11 years old, I ate 2 different kinds of yokai flesh, all that I can eat," or something like that. So he ate a lot of it at some point. Interesting, 2 different kinds. So we don't know why, we don't know how. Apparently, if you eat it, you become a badass. It's kind of like the mermaid saga, where like if you eat a mermaid, you live forever. I wonder if that's sort of tied into this. I don't know. And then the episode cuts right then. So this episode is really cool. It did what I wanted it to. I want to see more. It adapted the manga that I've read pretty well. The characters seem to act like themselves. I don't know which one I sort of like better. This is interesting because I'm sort of like I said, on par. I am going to go ahead in the manga first before, obviously, because these are weekly episodes. I'll be able to read more manga before then. But I think that Brainspace did a good job with this. The voice actor was pretty cool. You got Mamoru Miyano as Kuro, who's a great voice actor if you know like Steins Gate and stuff. But yeah, it's cool. animation wise, it was all right. It didn't really stand out to me one way or the other. So it's not really ugly. It's not the most beautiful thing in the world, but you know, it's you kind of want like a gritty ghost supernatural type thing anyway. I would imagine. So I don't know. I'm interested in Kuro. I'm interested in Kotoko. I'm interested in this world of yokai among people and how she's a goddess to them and he's like the plague. It's interesting. So if you guys watched episode 1 of Inspector, please let me know your thoughts of it thoughts on it down below. If you'd like to check out my Patreon, please do so. And like I said, I do live streams every Sunday night at 9 p.m. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Miasma, and I'll see you next time.